Hello and welcome to day 3 in the Louise Borglit case. This is the case with the almost 8-month pregnant woman who was stabbed to death in a park while she was out walking her dog. This case is a special case in Denmark because almost all of the evidence in this case relies on the court believing secret recordings done by an undercover agent who went into prison, befriended the suspect, and recorded him talking about the murder. And today there were some indications that he might know more than he lets on. And again, there's also a lot of indications that he didn't do it. It's been a kind of crazy day, but let's look into what's been said today in court. First of all, in the second day of trial, he told the prosecutor he was nowhere near the place of the murder. He was at a friend's house. This friend deals drugs, so he wouldn't name him. But today, in one of the recordings, he has told the undercover agent that he was pretty close to where the murder happened. This is Elverparken in Herlev, where the murder happened. And he says he was a suspect because 5 minutes after the murder, he was at Herlev train station right near the park. But then he says, well, I couldn't kill her, change my clothes, and be at the station 5 minutes later. No, he was at the station, and the perpetrator of the crime gave him a bag possibly containing the murder weapon. And that's why he was a suspect. And he hopes they never find the knife because his DNA is on it. In another recording, he has been telling the undercover agent that he was up here in a town called Bauswær, where he was at a pizzeria, and he can prove he was there. We haven't seen that proof, and he says today again, I was at my friend's house, the drug dealer. So another explanation that just doesn't line up. Bauswær is quite some way from Herlev where the murder was done. So if he was at the pizzeria and could prove it, that would be a pretty good alibi. But as he told the court today, I was at the drug dealer's house. And most of the talks today has been circumstantial again. So this case comes down to, do the court believe what he's saying in the recordings, or do they believe him when he says in court, no, I was just talking to this undercover agent. This undercover agent was a bad guy, had claimed he had done some things in Portugal and in Greenland, and I just tried to show him that I was tough too. We hear them talking about how to stab a woman, where to stab a woman. No, not a woman, a person, so they'll die fast. He tells him about the amount of blood that would leave somebody if they are killed. But then again, he's also recorded saying, I would never kill a woman. I would never do anything to a woman, even though he's in prison for attempted murder of his ex-girlfriend. So it's apples and oranges. It's all about what do you believe, and do you believe the recordings? That's the hurdle that the prosecution has to get over, and the defense has to poke holes in all these recordings. There's nothing really concrete again today. There is a conversation after the agent has been released from prison. He visits him in another prison, talks to him, and he's saying something like, you know, the thing I wouldn't talk to you about back in the old prison, well, let's say I did it. He's not mentioning anything. He's not saying the name of the woman, the place of the murder, anything. And today in court, again, he just says, it's just bravado. It's just me trying to act tough. So this is a case of he said, she said. There's nothing really concrete yet. The court will assume again on Friday There will be more recordings by the prosecution, more questions by the prosecutions trying to impeach him on all these recordings, and after that his defense will have their turn to try and interrogate him and try to paint a different picture. There's a lot of circumstantial evidence if you believe what he's saying. The talk about him being near the murder, then the talk about how she was cut, the knowledge she had of her nose being cut off. There's also a story about how he threw the knife in a dustbin at the psychiatric hospital when he was admitted 2 days later, because they would pat him down before admitting him. So in that recording, he's saying that he had the murder weapon, and he'll be effed if the police ever find the murder weapon because his DNA is on it. But again, there's a lot of evidence where he might be talking about this case, and there's a lot of evidence where he's saying, I didn't do it, I wouldn't do it, I couldn't hurt a woman. And he's also mocking the police for not finding the person who did it. And he's saying, well, they wasted a year and a half looking at me instead of looking at the guy who did it. So again, what do the court believe? Do they believe that he's talking about stabbing people is an indication that he did it? Or do they believe that he's just some, sorry to say it, crazy guy who had a morbid fantasy about doing things like that? He had a big interest in the case, but did the agent influence him to talk about it? That would be something that defense could bring into the case too. But Friday will be the next time we'll look at this case, and I hope you enjoyed me covering it, and that you will watch again Friday. Thank you for watching.